Just because these movies have flown under the radar does not mean that they are not terrifying, because they are. My name's Ricky, I love horror movies, and today we're going to be delving into 5 underrated horror movies that have flown right under the radar. First up, we have A Dark Song. A Dark Song was released in 2016 and was directed by Liam Gavin. The movie centers around this grieving mother who employs an occultist to perform this months-long ritual. They set up in this remote house in Wales, and their goal is to summon this woman's guardian angel so she might be able to talk to her deceased son. It's a lot. And as the boundaries between reality and the spirit realm start to mix, we see 2 people who start to crack under the pressure of trauma and grief. A Dark Song feels incredibly real, unlike many other, Hollywood or big production horror movies. A Dark Song offers up a sense of realism that we don't usually see in films about this subject. It feels grounded, it feels real. The performances are anguished and painful, and it's one of the best depictions of grief I've seen in any horror film. I can see how the ending of this film might be considered polarizing. Some people might think it's anticlimactic. I think it's perfect. I think it's stunning, and it took my breath away. It's a claustrophobic, psychological masterpiece. I absolutely love this film. Next up, we have Lovely Molly. Directed by Eduardo Sanchez and released in 2011, Lovely Molly centers around newlyweds Molly and Tim, who move into Molly's childhood home, and it doesn't take long before Molly starts to really unravel. The house obviously awakens some type of past childhood trauma, but we also see that she is battling addiction at the same time, and none of this is helped by a malevolent force in her house. The film uses aspects of found footage, psychological breakdown, as well as possession horror. Gretchen Lodge gives a harrowing performance as Molly. It's raw, it's disturbing, and it is committed. One of the things I absolutely love about this film is how uncertain it makes you feel of everything. It makes you wonder whether she is even going through anything, or is this a result of her past childhood traumas, or as a result of her addiction. This is also an incredibly scary film. I love found footage, so the aspects of found footage in this film are extremely welcome. The way it switches between found footage and traditional film is extremely jarring, but like I said, it works really well in this setting. The movie has this really dark and kind of grim tone to it that makes you feel extremely uneasy, and it's one of them rare horror movies that is as scary as it is messed up. This is a disturbing film. There are scenes in this movie that will have your jaw on the floor for sure. If you like movies like Paranormal Activity, if you like found footage movies on a whole, you should check this movie out. If you like movies like The Conjuring, if you like movies like Sinister, you should check this movie out, because it's like a perfect mix of both of them films. And Lovely Molly is my go-to recommendation for anybody who is after a scary, underrated horror movie. And next up we have Grave Encounters, directed by the Vicious brothers and released in 2011. This is a movie about a paranormal hunting team who lock themselves into an abandoned insane asylum. Their aim is to film a fake haunting, but they soon realize that this place is actually haunted. The building comes alive and starts to warp time and space around them, trapping them in this disturbing loop of horror. It's like an actual nightmare. So this movie doesn't take itself too seriously, and in reality it doesn't have any right to be as scary as it is. It's quite a low budget horror movie, but you don't feel that when you're watching it, or at least you do feel that, but you don't care because it is so damn terrifying. Grave Encounters absolutely masters the jump scare, and there are not just 1 or 2 jump scares in this film. Jump scares permeate every single scene. Grave Encounters is by no means a perfect film. There is some very poor CGI in this movie, and there is some shaky acting, but what this film does, and does so expertly well, is manages to make you feel absolute terror about what's around that next corner. It makes you fear the dark again. It's not a movie that has any kind of deeper or darker meaning to it. It is just what it is. It is a form of entertainment. It sets out to scare you, and it does that, again, expertly well. There is no way for me to say it other than that. If you love found footage movies and you haven't seen Grave Encounters, you need to stop what you're doing right now and go and check it out, because I guarantee you that this movie will not only scare you, but it will become one of your favorite found footage movies of all time. And next up we have Lake Mungo. Released in 2008, Lake Mungo was directed by Joel Anderson. After 16-year-old Alice drowns in a dam, her family start to experience strange happenings in their house. The film is set up like a documentary or a mockumentary, and the deeper into this mockumentary we get, we start to find out that Alice was keeping a lot of secrets from her family. And it turns out that her passing wasn't the end of a story, it was the beginning of one. This is quite easily my favourite found footage horror movie of all time. It is emotionally devastating, and it is quietly terrifying. The movie feels so incredibly real that the first time I saw it, I thought I was watching an actual documentary. It's that convincing. While this movie has one of the best jump scares I've ever seen in any horror film, the scares from this film don't really come from jump scares. It comes from this sort of existential fear of what is lying beneath the surface. The things that we keep from our families, the things that we keep barely from ourselves, can come back to haunt us and destroy our families. And that's where the true horror of Lake Mungo lies. And the movie contains one of the scariest still images you will see in any horror film. Lake Mungo is a terrifying and eerie meditation on grief and buried secrets. I absolutely love this film. And finally, we have The Lodge. Directed by Veronica Franz, The Lodge was released in 2019 and is absolutely incredible. After the tragic passing of their mother, two children are left alone in a winter lodge with their father's new girlfriend. And this girlfriend has a dark past as the sole survivor of a religious cult. After they get snowed in, tensions begin to rise, and we start to see that something is wrong. Something paranormal perhaps, something psychological, who knows? Could the father's girlfriend just be losing her grip on reality? The reason I love this movie is because of how ominous it is, how isolated and full of dread it is. This movie creates an atmosphere so thick that you can feel it wrapping itself around you as you watch it. The movie examines religious trauma and guilt and paranoia and manipulation expertly well, to the point that I hadn't realized that my entire body had tensed up whilst watching. This movie is also shocking, and it doesn't shy away from these shocking moments. They are there to serve as this emotional gut punch. The performances from everybody in this film are amazing, but especially from the two young actors. It must be extremely difficult as young actors who are not as experienced to pull off these real complex emotions, and they do it so expertly well. And while this isn't your scariest horror film, it terrifies you in different ways. That's not to say that there are not moments in this movie that do scare you. There is a moment in this film that made me jump out of my skin to the point that my fingers hurt. The Lodge is a masterclass in tension, it's a masterclass in paranoia, and it's heavily inspired by The Shining, I think. But in a good way. It takes all the good aspects of The Shining and turns it into something new and fresh. I absolutely love it. All 5 of these films play with perception, trauma, and the unknown. They're not just about the scares, right? They're about what lingers in the corners of guilt, grief, and human fragility. If you're tired of mainstream horror and you want something more unsettling or maybe more introspective, consider giving these films a watch. So let me know, have you seen any of these films? And if I haven't mentioned one of your favourite underrated horror movies, drop it in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification button. I am new to YouTube. You may have seen me on TikTok, where we have a great community of horror lovers. You may have seen me on Instagram, where we have an equally great community of horror lovers. I am trying to make the YouTube grow, so if you can like, subscribe, follow, share with your friends, that will really help me out. My name's Ricky. I love horror movies.